Here with no Super Bowl championships and a bunch of problems, Shasky. Good morning.
I mean, we sound like the woulda, coulda, shoulda Houston Rockets, and that's the worst part about it is, as a Niner fan, I mean, I'm going back to this is the recent Super Bowl. Forget the one from 5 years ago, and it's just like, man, if this would have happened, if this could have happened, if this didn't happen. I mean, we sound like whiners and losers, and the 40 whiner nickname is, it's just on this one, I have to tap out and just say, like, yeah, you're right. I sound like a whiner and a crybaby because this one hurts.
Well, I don't think it's whining and being a crybaby. It's just recalling what happened. And it's not making an excuse. It's 3rd and 15, Tyreek Hill. And then you think about last year's Super Bowl or last season's Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And you think fumble on the first drive. You think not taking advantage of an interception. You think multiple holding calls, false starts, muff punts, missed tackles, not paying attention to detail. I think about Orr Burks lining up who knows where, not knowing where to line up half the time. Logan Ryan played the slot with Diamador Lenore's like, hey, I suggested Shanahan, or I suggested to Steve Wilkes, maybe I should play the nickel today. Maybe I should guard Travis Kelce. So I don't think it's whining or making excuses. There's no excuses to be made. Kansas City took those games. But you look at your own undoing, Shasky, the things they could have controlled and they didn't control, or the lack of control that they had in situations they did control.
It's so funny how, like, football is just so different than the other sports. I was saying yesterday, we were just kind of going through stuff in the wide world of sports. And in the first round of the NBA playoffs, top seeds win 90% of the time in the first round. Now, it's the first round, and so there's a big disparity because there's a lot of people that get into the playoffs, right? But in Major League Baseball, it's 50%. It's 50%. Just winning a top seed, winning their first round, right? And the number is closer to 55% in the NFL, which is crazy. And that's just going back to, like, the wild card era. You get a lot of upsets, shockingly. You look at the Niners. They were the top seed last year. They could have easily lost that game to Green Bay. So I think these one-game samples, they hurt you even more than a 7-game series in basketball or in Major League Baseball. Those hurt, don't get me wrong. But the woulda, coulda, shouldas of a one-game sample and the margins being so thin, I feel like the losses in football stick with you for so long because the ball does bounce in odd ways and weird stuff does happen. CMC was the best player on the planet. And after 5 plays, he put the ball on the ground to start off the Super Bowl. And that's a play that it happens so early in it. I don't want to put too much emphasis on it, but it's one of those, like, woulda, coulda, shoulda plays.
The drive was perfect. The drive was perfect going down the field. Yeah, use check balling. Yeah, Brock Purdy not looking nervous at all. And that's the biggest thing is how would Brock Purdy do on that big stage in Las Vegas? Brock Purdy held up pretty well. He held up pretty well. You know what I'm saying? For a quarterback in his first ever Super Bowl in his second full season, he held up pretty damn well. And it was Christian McCaffrey who fumbled. Christian McCaffrey, which was like an omen. So I was talking to Lubman last night, Shasky. Unlock the phone lines, Carter, because I want to get the Niner fans involved in this. Just thinking about to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. What was the moment? What was the moment in that game where you said to yourself, Niner fans, it just ain't our day? What was that moment? Because I know when my moment was. Or was there a moment during that game in Las Vegas where you thought, we got this? When were you at your highest? Was it early in the game? Was it late in the game?
Well, you know how I fan. You've been around me long enough.
Right.
We could be up, 21 points with a minute to go. And I'm like, let's make sure we hike this properly so we can take these knees the appropriate way. So, but like, I just keep coming back to that 4th and 2. That 4th and 2, they call a timeout, and, they got opportunities to kind of, you're waiting, and the anxiety of that play, the anxiety of watching Mahomes kind of waddle over to Andy Reid, and they're thinking about what they're going to do.
And this is the overtime play.
Yeah.
That's when you thought it was officially over?
No, not that it was over. It just was like, to me, that was that seminal moment. There was plenty of them, but that's the one moment I think of till I'm blue in the face. I think of that sequence leading up to that.
Yeah.
And the reason why 4th and 2 sticks out to me, where they were on the field, knowing that they needed to chase the 3, having the ball second, as opposed to having the ball first.
Yep.
If they have the ball first, are they more inclined to not go for it on 4th and 2? And maybe they have to punt it away, or maybe they try some crazy long field goal. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's all it's one play that has like 7 million layers wrapped into it. Shanahan's frustration with the defense as a whole, Bosa's inability to be able to diagnose the mesh point over and over and over again, him pointing and trying to throw someone under the bus as there's no edge guy. Maybe Greenlaw's the guy there, but Greenlaw's out with an Achilles. Now, is that the only play? No, but like that's the one play that when I think about, like, oh my God, we stop him here, we win the Super Bowl. And if we don't, it feels like we're probably gonna lose.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. Earlier that, because that second half was tough to watch for me mentally.
Oh my God.
Mentally, it felt like a slow, painful death. Because they come out at halftime, and it's 10-3, which, by Lord, the Niners should have been up far more than 10-3. Having a 7-point lead, great. But the way they dominated that first half, it should have been 17-3, 16-3, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chiefs come out, they get the ball. Mahomes, is facing a 3rd and 12. You got to remember, he fumbled the first snap after halftime. So they're sitting there 3rd and 12 at their own 23, and Mahomes throws an interception and a pass intended for Marcus Valdez-Scantling.
It was thrown into no man's land.
It picked off. Niners set up shop, 1st and 10 at the Kansas City 44. In each sequence of plays, mentally for me, Shasky was like, oh, they're in trouble. And it was 1st and 10, Brock Purdy, incomplete. 2nd and 10, you're setting up at the Kansas City 44-yard line. Mind you, all you need is 9 yards to get in the field goal range with the way Jake Moody was kicking. 2nd and 10, false start, Aaron Banks. 2nd and 15, incomplete pass to Deebo Samuel. And all of a sudden, you're facing a 3rd and 15 at the Kansas City 49-yard line. And you're thinking to yourself, how did this happen? You just had 1st and 10 at the Kansas City 44. And the fact that they didn't take advantage of the interception, they force another punt. And then next thing you know, all hell breaks loose for the 49ers. All hell breaks loose. So that moment when they didn't capitalize off the interception early in the 3rd quarter, I thought, oh boy, you're not scoring off of turnovers, which you've done all season long. You've done it under Shanahan throughout his tenure, capitalizing off of turnovers for the most part. You did it in 2019 the whole damn time. And when you didn't capitalize on that play, I thought, boy, you're just leaving this game out for Mahomes. They haven't played well for 2 full quarters, and you're leaving it on a silver platter. And so from that moment on, in my head, I just kept thinking, how are they going to lose?
At one point in that game, Pacheco puts it on the floor. Mahomes had turned it over. That was a little later, but you got Kelsey so frustrated with everything that's going on. He's chest bumping or whatever. Andy Reid called it a hug. I called it like an elbow shove.
Yeah.
It was I'm going to give you the business. That's what I would describe that as. He's doing that to his head coach.
No, I mean,
they were so frustrated with the Niners. I thought Dre Greenlaw at one point in the game was the best player on the field.
He was for as long as he was on there. And then, of course, he jogs off the sideline and tears his Achilles. And we haven't seen him since. So we're hoping to see him soon, maybe after the bye week. But I just thought when they didn't capitalize in my head, Shasky, and this is a tough way to watch a football game. It's a tough way to watch a football game when you're thinking to yourself, how are they going to lose this? And there's just a series of plays where they were fighting off death, right? The 4th and 3, the 4th and 2 to George Kittle. I'm thinking to myself, wait, Shanahan's going for it? What the hell is going on here?
It's a ballsy play call.
It's a ballsy play call. This is like Shanahan. What is going on here? George Kittle barely gets it. He extends the football past the first down marker. He ended up scoring a touchdown. And you're thinking, and I'm just like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? It was just a series of events. The muff punt, the deflection on 3rd and 5, the iced the game. If the 49ers get a first down, run it 5 wide right after the 2-minute drill. They get a first down right there, Shatsky. They could take the air out of the football, set up for a game-winning field goal in regulation. So I just kept thinking, when they didn't capitalize off that interception, and again, folks, it's a tough way to watch a football game. But in my head, I just kept thinking, how are they going to lose this?
You know, it's interesting.
That's tough.
It's really tough. It's interesting the way we view certain athletes. So, like, LeBron is this way for me, and I'm sure for Warrior fans, Curry's this way. You could play the worst game on the planet for 40-something minutes, And then I know in the back of my head, I mean, really, Steph only needs like one shot to get
Right.
going here, right? He only needs like one shot, and the next thing you know, you have a Curry flurry and you have an explosion. The entire game means absolutely nothing for the finish.
Yep.
And there's only a few guys in sports where that like comes to. I think of like someone, and this is going way back, but like Manny Ramirez was one of those playoff performers. He could go 0 for 5. But for some reason, every single time he stepped into that batter's box, I was like, don't give him anything to hit.
Right.
Because he can hit an absolute donk right here. And then I view not Jerry Rice, but Joe Montana, I viewed that way, where it's like, all right, Joe could have a horrible game. Final 2 minutes, is there anyone you want with the ball in your hand more in his era? Tom Brady, same thing. Did it matter what he did for 3.5 quarters?
No, it didn't. You know what, though, against the 49ers? I got that feeling with Brett Favre.
I totally agree.
Brett Favre was a Green Bay Packer quarterback. Russell Wilson as well. But Brett Favre, just going back to him, Shasky, later on Russell Wilson, because I got the same feeling with him. But Brett Favre, that's the first time that I felt that as a 49er fan, as a young 49er fan. I go, damn, no matter what, Green Bay's going to figure out a way to win this football game.
Exactly.
And that's what it's like going against Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs. There's going to be a point in this game on Sunday where we think, boy, they're just going to figure out a way to steal it.
And that's the way when I'm watching Mahomes, and you kept alluding to it. I mean, you were screaming it at me when we were sitting up in the top of the stadium. It's like over and over and over. Oh my God, it's Mahomes. At any moment, he could start turning it on. And I thought he was having a pretty crappy day.
I thought the defense played very well.
Until he became unstoppable superhuman man. And it's just, it's so hard, man, because he is an all-time great, and they had him multiple times bottled up. You're never going to stop those guys completely.
No.
But I felt like one play goes the Niners' way. One play doesn't go the Chiefs' way, and they win both of those Super Bowls.
Well, the third 19 or third and 15 of Super Bowl 54 is something I toss and turn about at night. Because I swear to God, Shasky, and I wish we get the audio of this, but Troy Aikman, before that play, as they're lining up and getting into their formation, and Troy Aikman is on the broadcast saying, boy, Kansas City needs to make a play in a heartbeat. This could get away from them. And it's third and 15, and Mahomes takes, I swear to God, it looked like a 20-step drop back. I mean, by the time he released the ball, it felt like he was 20 yards past the line of behind the line of scrimmage, and he just lets it fly. At third and 15, up 20-10, I truly believe that it changed the course of NFL history. What happens if Kansas City loses that game? Do they beat Tampa Bay the next year? You know what I'm saying? What happens in this Super Bowl last year with Shanahan? They had the experience of winning one. Maybe they close better. But third and 15 in Super Bowl 54 in Miami is a play that'll haunt the 49ers, 49er fans, maybe Shanahan for the rest of their lives. That's what we're talking about here. So Kansas City, it's tough for me to hate them when I feel like the Niners have given them both games.
Well, no, I can easily hate them. I mean, Bonte, you're talking about like one thing goes one way. If they win that game, somehow, some way, they win that game, the Jawan Jennings throwback is one of the greatest plays in 49er history.
Yeah.
It's a play that we don't even think about.
We don't even think about it.
I mean, I saw this. I was going through some of the notes from the AP, just like from the game. Like, was there stuff that I'd forgotten about? Jawan Jennings, to catch and throw a touchdown, would have been the second player in Super Bowl history, besides Nick Foles, to accomplish the feat.
I know.
It was him. It was Connolly. That's who was shaping up to maybe be your Super Bowl MVP. Yep. Think about what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. And then, of course, special teams reared its ugly head and situations, and it's just the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And that comes back to, like, I think for a lot of people, we're going to go straight to overtime, and I understand that. The Niners were lucky to evade
overtime,
losing in regulation and getting to overtime.
I know.
I mean, they tackled Kelsey at the 2-yard line or whatever.
No, it was at the 11. It was at the 11-yard line. He got pushed out by Tig Brown, and he was wide open.
I mean, I thought he was going to score a touchdown.
And you know what? Kansas City kind of mismanaged the clock because we thought they had time for one more play.
Yes.
And they kind of let the clock elapse there. One more play at the 11-yard line and maybe take a shot at the end zone. They may have scored. Because, again, Orton Burks, God bless his soul, had no idea where to line up half that football game. Logan Ryan was out of position, and he played his ass off considering that he was a late season signing, but he was playing the nickel. We find out on the Richard Sherman podcast that Deommodore Lenoir wanted to play the nickel because he felt like Kansas City's outside threats weren't a big-time threat for him to be wasting snaps on. So, yes, they were looking to get the regulation. You got monumental field goals from Jake Moody, 250-plus yard field goals from Jake Moody, and then he misses the PAT. So there's just all these omens in the Super Bowl where, like, the Niners are doing everything they can to not win this football game.
You got the Chase Young game.
You got the Chase Young game.
You traded for this guy to have one game, like literally just one game down the stretch to maybe win you a big playoff game or something. He had the game after having the most dog performance in the Detroit game where he's literally like jogging off the field as Jamison Williams is scoring a touchdown. He had a great game. The defensive line had a great game. And you couldn't capitalize.
And so that's why, look, this game against Kansas City on Sunday, does it mean anything for the conference? No, it's they're in the AFC, the Niners are in the NFC. We get it. It's not going to count against the NFC in terms of head-to-head tiebreakers, conference tiebreakers, all that jazz. And the Niners right now are tied for first place in the NFC West with the tie-breaking points over Seattle, the head-to-head matchup. So life is good right now with the 49ers. You're back in first place. However, you lost to Kansas City all 4 times Shanahan as big coach. And I remember every single game. The 38-27 game in 2018 when Jimmy Garoppolo tears his knee up late in the fourth quarter. They were up 35-7 in that football game.
Everyone was
rolling.
getting hurt.
Everybody was getting hurt at Arrowhead Stadium. They were getting rolled. Hell, the Niners haven't won at Arrowhead Stadium in my lifetime. Since I remember football, going back to 94. Now, they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead in 82, but I was like 2 months old when they beat Kansas City back at Arrowhead in 1982. They haven't beat them at Arrowhead since. And then just looking at Shanahan losing to the Chiefs, all the games, the Jimmy Garoppolo game, tearing his ACL, of course, Super Bowl 54. How about the regular season with Mahomes? You said it, not me, but I'm watching on the tube. Looked like one of the greatest performances we've ever seen in the Bay Area from a quarterback position. They dropped 44 on the 49ers. And that was Christian McCaffrey's first game. And then, of course...
Well, the Jimmy interception
right before halftime was terrible.
I mean, it was one of the worst throws.
It was awful. It was awful. But they were scoring touchdowns, and the Niners were settling for 3.
It's true.
And then you get to last season's Super Bowl. So just for Shanahan to go up against Coach Reed, Andy Reid, and they're 28-3 off the bye week, the psyche of 49er fans, the psyche of this team, to just beat Kansas City, to know that you can do it, to know that you can walk off the football field with more points to them, I think it's monumental for this entire fan base, for this team emotionally, because if you lose this game, with everything that's going to be hyped up with it, and you lose this game, you don't want to go limping into the Cowboys game. I could see a situation where you're going into the bye week at 3-5. So you got it. All hands on deck this week. This game is massive for the 49ers.
My boy Noel Fahey, one of the more diehard Niner fans that I know, he's like texting me back and forth yesterday, and he's like, dude, this so reminds me of 94. Like, until I can see this team do it, I can't believe. It's just really hard to believe that they can beat that guy and this coach until we actually see them do it. Does it mean they're going to do it in the playoffs? No. But there is something to be said for, like, before you can conquer them, you kind of have to prove it to yourself that you can go out and beat them. For the soul, we need this.
You know, remember they lost to the New York Giants in that NFC Championship game, and the New York Giants came the next season back to Candlestick Park and won 27-3. Now, remember Ahmed Bradshaw on the sideline when they smoked him, 27-3. He goes, to be the man, you have to beat the man. And then that man turned out not to be Alex Smith. They end up making a quarterback change a few weeks later because they felt like if we have to see the New York Giants again, we don't have the answers to the test. Back to 94 to win 21-14 in that regular season game. They were down 7-0, and it was hairy. It was a lot of nervous energy on that red and gold sideline. They needed that game. They needed that game. So by the time they came out to the NFC Championship game, you're up 21-0. The Candlestick is rocking like an earthquake, like Loma Prieta. You know what I'm saying? Like it was rolling. But you need to win on Sunday just to know that you can do it.